La la la. Hello, YouTube. We were chatting over on Discord. I wasn't that late. Jens gets upset that I'm late. Um, we were chatting on Discord while we were getting set up. So sorry. All right, let me get TikTok. TikTok. TikTok always does take me a quick second to set up. Translated crisis. Add a goal. Da la la la. Yeah, la 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 la, like the German song on on Eurovision. Fa la 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 la, or what was it? That German music was weird this time. I still like that Swedish group. It makes me sad they didn't do well. And the Icelandic boys were actually pretty good, which was, I thought, very unfair to them as well. All right, one second here. Let me just pick. Yep. One more. Trying to pick something fun here. I'm not finding fun. We did fairy wings yesterday. Oh, I guess we can stick with this. I don't know. We'll stick with this. I don't know what's fun. We'll see what's fun. All right, go live. All right. Hey, Carrie. Oh, hey, Carrie. I was going to say, I don't think I've seen you in a while. Mirror your image. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. All right. Welcome, YouTubers. Sorry, I had to get TikTok set up. It always takes a bit. TikTok is not easy. It sort of goes in progression. Discord takes a little bit. Actually, YouTube is very easy. Discord takes a bit, and TikTok takes a bit. All right. Hey, TikTokers. How we doing? Ash, I just told Manda that girl, that chick comes back. She's booted. Next word out of her mouth, she's gone. The one that makes us think she's Webadeb, but she's not. Anyway, hello all. Okay, you come later. Okay, I was going to say, I don't think I've seen, it's okay, but I didn't think I'd seen you live in a while. That's why I saw your name and I went, oh. Hey, Chazak. Hey, Hannah. Hey, Mark. Is it Wednesday? It is Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. Maddie's right. Hey, Hannah. So welcome, guys. Welcome to the show. We're hanging out. We're talking Ukraine. We're talking America. Okay amount of news today. Not great news. None of the news is really particularly good today. Thank you, Bryce. Thank you, Jorge. Adventures. But, Trump is being crazy again. Thank you, Ginger and Martin. It's not good news. Not good. What do you do? TikTok is slow sending adverts out. I'm surprised they're sending any. TikTok's been sitting on my videos again. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Elizabeth. Who knows why? You can tell because I put a video up and it gets 1,400 views. And I'm like, okay, TikTok, what did I do now? Yeah. The South Africa stuff today was, sorry, my nose is itching very badly today. The South Africa stuff was kind of crazy today. We're going to see about that. I've noticed TikTok has not been notifying me of a number of people I follow and like. Like I was telling you, that Forrest guy who's really good, the science guy, just, doesn't tell me when he's live anymore. It's really annoying. Anyway, thank you, Running. Thank you, Visionary. Thank you, Terry. Jeff, who knows what's up with TikTok? I really don't. But literally they've just decided, they don't want to promote my videos for a while. I'm like, okay, thanks. I'll just keep posting them. Anyway, thank you, Visionary. So welcome, guys. We're going to talk about the latest news from Washington and the latest news from Ukraine. I am John Aravosis in Washington, D.C. My life is politics. I have worked in journalism. I've worked certainly in politics for a long time. Advocacy. I'm a lawyer. I have a law degree from Georgetown, international relations degree from Georgetown as well. So I've got a lot of background in a lot of this different stuff, and decided to start this show several years ago to basically help people understand what's going on in politics. So, he didn't say that, Dave, did he? Sorry, Dave's saying the South African president said, I don't have a plane I can give you. Did he actually say that? He did not actually say that, did he? Oh my God. Well, let's start with the news, the more general news, then we'll get to South Africa. That poor South African president was visiting today, the poor man. Stock market is down again today. This is important. The stocks go up and down day to day, and that's fine. But this is pretty important. Stocks were down pretty significantly today. Bond yields are up, which is the percent you get paid. I'll call it interest. The interest you get paid on a bond is up. Why this is worrisome is it is indicative of the stock market very concerned about inflation going up and the deficit as well. It's first of all, bonds. When bond yields go up, when the interest rate on bonds goes up, guess what else goes up? Your mortgage. your debt. Any of your variable debt, the debt that can swing up and down, goes up when this goes up. That is not good. Why is the stock market so worried about American debt? Because Donald Trump and the Republicans are about to pass a huge spending bill that will add between $3 to $5 trillion to the national debt. 3 to 5 trillion. That's like another 10% added on to the current debt. Thank you, Ash. Thank you, Laddie. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Gothic. It's sick. It's absolutely sick what they're doing. Thank you, Marsha. What really upset, I mean, we'll talk about this, but what really upsets me with this is, I've said this before, but Republicans are so good at messaging. They've created this impression out there that they're the fiscally responsible ones. They're the ones that pay attention to the budget, when it's pretty much been Republicans who have busted the budget every time, and they typically bust it with their tax cuts. This time is unheard of that they're passing a budget that's going to add between $3 to $5 trillion to the national debt. That is unheard of. It doesn't, they don't do that. They're doing it. Now, the odd part here, or maybe the surprising part is, thank you, Max, for the gifts, by the way, on a TikTok. The surprising part is they actually are cutting a lot of stuff at the same time, but it's not making a difference because the tax cuts they're doing are so huge that the stuff they're cutting can't pay for it. They're cutting Medicaid, as you know, which is a health program in America. It's basically healthcare for poor people and disabled people. A lot of seniors are on it too. Thank you, Marsha. Thank you, Running. I actually thank you, Shelby. I had coffee with an old friend of mine yesterday, Zach Walls, who is a state senator from Iowa. And we were talking about this, and he was mentioning, which I guess I should have known, but I didn't really know, Medicaid. A lot of seniors are on Medicaid. Medicaid actually helps retired people pay for their Medicare. Like if you're poor and you're on Medicare, you still got to pay some money. Medicaid helps with that. So Medicaid's hugely important. Nursing homes, DL is saying as well. But in any case, they're cutting Medicaid. They're cutting food assistance programs. They're cutting, listen what they're cutting. They're slashing taxes, increasing military spending, immigration enforcement spending. They're cutting Medicaid. They're cutting food assistance, so food for poor people, education, and clean energy. I mean, okay, the programs the Republicans decided to cut are Medicaid, which is healthcare for poor people, people with disabilities, and seniors. Okay, thank you, Out of My House, for the gift. Thank you, Dan, Carol as well. They're also cutting food assistance, which is food for poor people who can't afford food. They're cutting education, the money that goes to educating our children. They're cutting across the board. And they're cutting money for clean energy, because I guess we want dirty energy instead. We'd rather have coal in our air than solar. And at the same time, and again, just to show you how messed up this is, they're massively cutting all these programs for poor people and for energy and for education. And it's still not enough. It's still not enough. They're still going to increase the deficit, not the deficit, but the actual national debt by $3 to $5 trillion. $3 to $5 trillion. Particularly interesting, I find, because I find this whole thing with Trump, I find the culture of Trump to be a bit odd, shall we say. Trump has decided to call the big budget tax bill one big beautiful bill. It's one big beautiful bill. So they've decided to call it one big beautiful bill. I've said this before. What kind of man talks like that? One big beautiful bill. Got to be careful on TikTok how I talk about these things, because TikTok is funny. But, I mean, who talks like that? I don't know a lot of men who talk that way. One big beautiful bill. And that's what they're calling it. Lovely. Trump ambushed the president in South Africa today. This was pretty funny. Trump has the president of South Africa visiting the Oval Office, and Trump decides in the middle of the meeting to ambush him about all the white genocide. This is a lie, by the way. I mean, it's the truth. What I'm telling you, it's a lie what Trump said. Trump ambushed the president of South Africa about the white genocide in South Africa. All the white people are getting killed. It's a genocide. It doesn't exist. It's not real. It's literally not real. The South African president said that's not a thing. Trump got upset because, Trump, when you say he's wrong about his crazy conspiracy theories. So Trump turned down the lights and put on video and brought out all these newspapers and stuff to prove. My nose is itching like crazy today. Excuse me. Calimera Pindo. Trump lowered the lights and put on all these videos to prove to the president of South Africa that there was a genocide against white people happening in South Africa. I mean, seriously, what is that? What? Oh, you got him first. Thank you, Blue. That's clear. Actually, that one I would block. That's a troll for hire kind of troll. Yeah. He ambushed him, apparently. He ambushed him. But imagine the arrogance of lecturing the president and all the press is reporting on it and noting that it's a conspiracy theory. It's literally not true. I love one of the stories that explained, yes, there have been some murders of white people in South Africa, and they're getting murdered at the same rate that black people are getting murdered. It's literally like in America, people get killed. It's a bad thing, but literally it's the same murder rate for whites and blacks in South Africa. There is no genocide against white people. Trump has used this genocide, this fake genocide, to justify letting South Africans come into America and basically cut the line. And all these white South Africans, I shouldn't say South Africans, white South Africans, thank you, Marsha, are cutting the line and coming into the U.S. now. I mean, it's just, again, I say unbelievable, but not so unbelievable. There has been some good federal court news. A federal judge said the Trump administration had violated his order restricting deportations and suggested the government workers involved could face criminal contempt. Basically, they went and they deported more men who, after the judge told them not to, they also gave them 24 hours notice to the guys they were deporting. And the judge said, that's completely unsatisfactory. You've got to give them several days notice. This is basically a crime, a felony that they committed now, the Trump people. The problem is it gets very hard to enforce because you can either fine them for money or you can fine them with jail time. Either one, it's the Trump Department of Justice or whatever that has to, and the FBI that has to enforce it. And Trump is not going to arrest his own people. So this is what they talk about when they say a constitutional crisis, because we're literally in the situation where Trump is ignoring the courts, which is illegal, right? But at the same time, it's biased, Mary, biased, B-I-A-S-E-D, biased. What he's doing is illegal. It's a felony. It's a crime. He's ignoring the courts, which are a co-equal branch of government. It's really scary stuff. It's very scary stuff. But this is, so what people voted for, a felon 34 times over. And what do you know? He's already committed more felonies. Federal judge ruled today that Trump broke the law when he fired members of an independent, another law broken. Surprise. Thank you, Rebecca. Trump broke the law when he fired members of an independent civil liberties watchdog without cause in January, ordered their reinstatement. The judge said that Trump's dismissal of Democratic selected members to the 5-person Privacy and Civil Liberties Oversight Board was illegal. Again, let's see what happens about it. Trump then went on TV today and created a new conspiracy theory about President Biden's cancer. For starters, Trump claimed that Biden has stage 9 cancer. I mean, it's like, we elected a very, very, very dumb man. And by the way, can you please send us better trolls? I was just going to say, don't troll if you can't speak English correctly. We sort of draw the line there. Writing things that literally don't make sense in English is not an effective way to. You're not sending us the best and brightest. Yeah, he claimed that Biden has stage 9 cancer. There's only 4 stages in cancer. 4th is the worst. Biden does have stage 4. It's very bad. Trump said stage 9. Now, he got that because I love that. Also, the trolls were trying to defend him on TikTok earlier, which was very funny, because Trump was referring to a different system that is used to grade prostate cancers, and it's a grade 9. Okay. Trump didn't say grade 9. He said stage 9, like stage 4, stage 5. He's an 82-year-old man. He doesn't know that there's 4 stages of cancer. But I mean, there's no excuse for saying, well, he was thinking of the other system. Literally, I don't know about the rest of you and the rest of the world. I'm suspecting it's the same as America. Everybody knows the stages of cancer and that there's 4 of them. Everybody knows that. So stage 9 cancer. At the same time, Trump suggested that Biden is losing his cognitive facilities. At the same time that Trump claimed that Biden has stage 9 cancer. I love that, right? He's accusing Biden of his mind isn't there. He has stage 9 cancer. You're going, dude, self-referential much. But Trump claimed, and of course, Trump being Trump claimed today a new conspiracy, or he jumped on the conspiracy theory and suggested that Biden knew he had cancer when he was in the White House and he didn't tell anybody and his doctor was part of the conspiracy. Trump said that today. I actually talked to my doctor about it today because I had my physical today and I was curious. And I'm not going to quote my doctor because that would be mean, but things I learned that I already had known. Actually, I will tell you this. I asked my doctor and I said, after age 70, Biden's doctor said, and actually medical professionals recommend you no longer get your PSA test after age 70, that you don't go after age 70. And I asked my doctor, he said, yeah, after age 70, you don't have to do it. And I said, yeah, but after age 70, you can get cancer. And he said, because generally speaking, prostate cancer is so slow growing, there's no point in knowing. And I said, well, isn't it better to know? And he said, no, because he said, guess what happens? I tell you that, Gabe, go away. Gabe, you're taking a timeout. I'm sorry, but that's just weird. Basically, if you tell somebody they've got prostate cancer, they will freak out. And they will want you to do everything to stop it. And they will do surgery. They will implant, radiological balls that my dad got. They may do invasive surgery to remove stuff. They may want chemo. They may want radiation, other radiation. And basically, most of that is unnecessary because prostate cancer goes so slowly. I remember this when my dad had it. Generally speaking, they said, you'll die of something else. He still wanted them to do stuff, so they did. But they didn't need to. So the problem is medical professions, and again, you can Google this. The standard medical advice is after age 70, you don't test anymore. Biden, they stopped testing him at 72. For the last 10 years, he wasn't tested, but he got the aggressive one. And the aggressive one is like, boom. The thing is, most people don't get the aggressive one. It's very rare. It's very rare what Biden got. So that you generally just don't test for it. Now, here's the thing. We've got a lot of fake trolls today. I'm noticing it's very interesting. Just mods, you know what to do. They're very, I can tell though, because the numbers are higher. Trump went crazy today with the South African president, and the trolls were kind of sent to even things out a little bit. So, we were saying about prostate cancer. So basically, they haven't tested Biden since 1972. Since he was 72. That is literally the standard. I found out today that is the standard practice. You do not test after 70. That's why Biden hadn't been tested. And he got the scary one. He got the bad one. Very few guys get it. If you get it, it's bad. It does move quickly. So, yeah. In other words, everything Biden said is true. Everything Biden said passes the laugh test. If your doctor is giving you cancer checks for prostate cancer and you're 82, there's something going on here. There's something going on with your doctor. But so Trump, of course, created a whole conspiracy theory and claimed that Biden's doctor knew and everything else. But again, I mean, Joyce raises a good question. She says, but I'm a little surprised that he wasn't tested when he was president. Am I going to get a breast cancer check if I were president? No. Men get breast cancer. They do, actually. Very few, but they do. You going to give a breast cancer check to a man because he's president? No. Right? Men don't get serious prostate cancer, generally speaking. They don't. If they get it, they freak out and they want surgery that isn't necessary. It is the established standard in the medical profession. Thank you, Pam Pam. That you do, but literally, it's the standard practice. You do not test them after age 70. You do not. And again, I even asked my doctor. He said, no, I don't. I don't. And that's when I said, yeah, but isn't it better to know? And he said, no, it's literally a disease that's not going to kill you. And you will freak out and you will get treatments that are unnecessary. So yeah, that's why. That's why. But Trump, anyway, created the conspiracy theory and shared it because that's who Trump is. You know, I know what you mean. I still feel like I'd want to know, but there is a great risk if you did know that you would then want to get all these procedures that are not just unnecessary, but there's a lot of bad, let's face it, you could be impotent. You can get a lot of really bad side effects, Anyway, so yeah, really, I mean, I think it's really offensive of people who say they knew. It's really offensive. Man just got diagnosed with a really bad cancer and you're busy just like doing this crap, oh yeah, that person's going. I'll let you have that one, Ash. Or Blue. That was gone. Anyway, no, but it can happen. You can get my uncle got a quick one. He got a bad one. They didn't know, I mean, he got prostate cancer. The doctor said it's not bad. They did the least invasive thing they could do, and it killed him in a few years because it was the worst one. And they just didn't know, so it happens. Yeah. Anyway, finally, the Pentagon accepted the Trump's bribe today from the government of Qatar. Trump accepted as you guys know, a $400 million bribe from an Arab government today. And the Pentagon actually accepted it today, I'm sorry. Okay, there we go. Bye-bye. That one gets blocked, actually. There you go. I like Ashley. I mean, all the mods are great, but Ashley and I are like we have like a Vulcan telepathic. Whenever there's like a troll in particular that I don't just want muted, I want blocked, I'm ready to say something or push the button and Ashley blocks them. Yeah, that one was out of there. Anyway, oh my God. So yes, Trump got his bribe today from the government of Qatar. So that was nice. Queen Janine, we are not going to repeat the propaganda that the troll posted. That would be bad. I appreciate your curiosity, but we're not going to repeat the misinformation, disinformation propaganda that trolls are posting in the chat. That would be a bad thing. Anyway. Oh, that's interesting. Insurance. I didn't even think of that from Poll, that insurance may not even cover the test afterwards. Anyway. All right. Let's the meme coin. I have nothing new on the meme coin other than, again, it's a great way to bribe Trump, and he is getting bribed. He's going to be having several events for people who buy his meme coin. Basically, you can buy it, money goes in his pocket, and then he agrees to do events with you, which is literally a bribe. Quite literally. Yay. Are there laws against this kind of thing? Yes. But Democrats aren't in power, and Trump controls the executive branch. Guess who investigates when the president breaks laws? The president's staff at the Department of Justice. So nobody's going to be stopping him. Congress could investigate, but good luck with that. Anyway, just seeing here. I did see that it's going to cost some money. What's the latest on how much they were saying? I think Dave was mentioning $1 billion. I thought I read $1 billion. How much is it going to cost for the Pentagon to fix or retrofit or whatever the plane that just got donated from the government of Qatar? I thought I read $1 billion. Let's see what this is saying. So it's crazy. Like, it's like, oh, it's free, except it's not free. Retrofitting it is going to cost up to $1 billion. Secure communication systems, defensive countermeasures, medical facilities. Basically, they still have to turn it into Air Force One. Yeah, so it's going to cost $1 billion. Yay! And then what happens? And then they donate it to Donald Trump when he leaves office. They're going to give it to the Trump Library, which is going to loan it to Donald Trump for the rest of his life, so he can fly around on his little fake Air Force One for the rest of his life. And that's swell. And that's swell. It's called a bribe. It's called a bribe. And it's sadly, you know, what we have. We've got a corrupt again. I mean, he was convicted of 34 felonies. That should have been our first clue. It was our first clue, in fact. Anyway, it's just boggles the mind, these guys. And of course, it'll have bugs and electronic eavesdropping devices and everything else. Of course, big surprise on that front, you know. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about Ukraine. It's day 1,182 of Putin's special 3-day invasion of Ukraine. I think this is the most interesting story about Ukraine in a long time. So, you know that basically the Russians are playing Trump. They've humiliated Donald Trump. Trump had threatened the Russians with sanctions if they didn't agree to a 30-day ceasefire. And Putin said, well, we don't want the ceasefire, but how about we negotiate directly with Zelensky? And Trump said, oh my God, that's great. And then Putin said, oh, because Zelensky said, sure, I'll do it. And then Putin went, oh, I don't really want to negotiate with Zelensky. So Putin refused. And he even refused to send his foreign minister to negotiate with Zelensky. Made Trump look pretty stupid. Then Trump has a talk with Putin the other day, talks to him for 2 hours, and comes out of the talk and says, Putin has agreed to consider talking to Ukraine again. And it was like, thank you for the gift, Chaz. Keep the gifts coming, by the way, guys. I do this for a living. Your gifts pay the bills. So please, on TikTok, YouTube, Discord, subscriptions, gifts, etc., keep them coming. But Trump basically, after 2 hours of talking to Putin, he announced nothing. Right? He announced that Putin is willing to negotiate. This is my favorite. Putin is willing to negotiate having negotiations on a ceasefire. Putin wants to negotiate the negotiation. He's not willing to have the negotiation of a ceasefire unless Ukraine first, renounces NATO, gives all of its land, like a bunch of the land that Ukraine still controls. The Russians want them to just give it up. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Lowry, the other Lori as well. It's unbelievable. Well, so that's what gets you to today. Putin humiliated Trump. Trump made a bunch of threats. He didn't follow through. He's going to sanction Putin. If Putin didn't have a ceasefire, Putin said no to the ceasefire. Trump got scared. What is fascinating is Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham is I was going to say another word, an odd man. He is very hawkish on defense. He's a Republican senator, conservative. Thank you, Addie. Thank you, Solar. He's conservative on defense, but he's a suck up. He was first a suck up to John McCain, who was an old Republican senator who died. And he then is now sucking up to Donald Trump. And on Ukraine, for example, Lindsey Graham, big defender of Ukraine, except when Donald Trump wanted to screw over Ukraine, Lindsey went, okay. So Lindsey Graham, he might be really conservative, but he doesn't have any backbone. Well, Lindsey Graham is doing something now, just announced today, that I think, or in the last day, I think is meant to pressure Trump, which is fascinating. And actually, the funniest part, I'm going to read you this. This was Kiev Independent rewriting it, I think. I want to read you this, and I want you to listen because you're going to recognize in here something I said in the last day or two. Okay, listen to this. The U.S. Senate is ready to vote on a bill on sanctions against Russia if peace talks over the war in Ukraine do not progress soon, according to U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham on May 20th. That's yesterday. If the next few days are like the last few months, then you can just count on us moving to sanction Russia, because I think it's our job to help the world end this war, Graham said. So Graham is saying if Russia isn't agreeing to a ceasefire sometime really soon, he's going to have the Senate pass legislation to force sanctions on Russia. The Chinese are watching. This is a dress rehearsal for Taiwan. I have said that before. How this ends, I think, will greatly determine what happens with the future of Taiwan. And I want this war to end in a way that makes Xi Jinping, the Chinese leader, think, well, that didn't work out too well for Putin. Graham stressed that the war in Ukraine must end in a way that prevents a new one from starting. Listen, this is the quote. Afghanistan was a disaster. If we do not get this right in Ukraine and the world perceives that Putin got away with it, that will be even worse. That will be worse than Afghanistan. Lindsey Graham is saying if Trump lets Putin get away with this, Trump's mistake in Ukraine is going to be worse than Biden's mistake in Afghanistan, even though Biden's mistake in Afghanistan was actually Donald Trump's mistake in Afghanistan because it was Donald Trump's peace treaty that Joe Biden implemented. But let's put that aside for a moment. He's saying that Trump will be worse than Biden. He's saying Trump in Ukraine will be worse than Biden in Afghanistan. This is one of Trump's closest advisors basically saying this. That is fascinating. That is absolutely fascinating. He's trying to pressure Trump. You know, on one hand, you could look at it and you could think, okay, he's trying to pressure the Russians, right? Which he is, right? He's trying to say, oh, the U.S. Senate is very angry, right? We're going to put sanctions on you. So Trump can say, oh boy, you know, the Senate, they're mad. Vlad, you got to give me something, right? So it's to some point, it could be about persuading Putin, right? You know, good cop, bad cop. But he threw in that last line. I'm going to read this again. Afghanistan was a disaster. If we do not get this right in Ukraine and the world perceives that Putin got away with it, that will be even worse than Afghanistan. And he just says that will be worse than Afghanistan. That is directed at Donald Trump. That is not directed at Vladimir Putin. Again, that is saying that Donald Trump will be worse than Joe Biden, that Donald Trump's mishandling of Ukraine will be worse than Joe Biden's mishandling of Afghanistan. That is really a strong thing to say about Trump from one of his allies. Lindsey Graham is trying to pressure Donald Trump, which I'm glad because this is on behalf of Ukraine, but it's absolutely fascinating that he's doing it, I think. And not I think, it is absolutely fascinating stuff. And this, my friends, is why you come to this show. Because one of the things I like to try to do is I try to find news and sort of go behind the news. I mean, having worked here for 40 years in Washington, to sort of find, you know, yeah, there's that story out there in the Washington Post, but what does it really mean? And this is an example of like how sometimes the news has got layers below it that we're not really aware of what's going on. This is fascinating. Now, again, I don't know what's going to happen. Lindsey Graham did a great job. But it's also fascinating that he's publicly putting some pressure on Trump. It's absolutely fascinating. Now, interesting. Alan says the Graham-Blumenthal hard-hitting Russia sanctions bill has reached 81 co-sponsors in the U.S. Senate. That is rather shocking. Co-sponsoring means you lend your name to it. It doesn't mean you're going to vote for it, but it means you probably will. 81 of 100 senators co-sponsoring the bill makes a very strong statement. That's great. Now, it's possible that Trump asked them to do this. I think it is. I think Trump might have said, do this bill. It'll help me put pressure on Putin. That's why the Republicans are joining in. But it's still very strange. Thank you, Wayne, for the gift there. It's still weird that Trump did not tell Lindsey Graham to accuse Donald Trump of creating another Afghanistan. Trump did not do that, right? That is definitely not what Trump wanted. So no, it's good. Let's see, but it's very good. The Ukraine dismisses Russia's claims of full control over Kursk. So the Russians are claiming they've gotten all of Kursk back. Not true. We talked about Biden earlier, Taylor, and basically Trump and the Republicans are spouting conspiracy theories. I'll repeat it right now, but prostate cancer doesn't get checked after you're 70. You can Google it. After 70, they don't check for prostate cancer. Biden's last check was 72, which was actually late. I mean, or they shouldn't have even checked him at 72, but they did. And he hasn't been checked for 10 years. And he got a rare cancer. That's a fast one. But no one gets checked after 70. You're not supposed to get checked. So what Biden said was true, that the doctor said not to check him. I even asked my doctor today. He goes, yeah, we don't check after 70. Yeah. And it is super rare to get the disease that Biden got, the really fast, aggressive one, which is again why they don't test you, because you don't typically get it. So everything Biden said rings true. He didn't get tested for 10 years and he got a really horrible, fast moving one, which is too bad. Well, he got checked in 72, which is you got checked in 71. That's pretty close, Terry, Thank you, Crazy, for the gift. Thank you, Succeed. It's in his bones though, which is very bad. Yeah. Getting it in your bones. I mean, metastasizing overall is just bad. But in your bones, I'm kind of with you, MD. Actually, let me ask you, MD, you're a physician. Let's ask really quick. I guess the way you would know if prostate cancer was the aggressive one, you'd have to do a biopsy, right? And then the biopsy is what would tell you if it's aggressive, right? So you would at least need a biopsy, which sucks, but maybe is good to know. I'm with you. The problem is most people don't have the aggressive. So is insurance going to want to pay for most men to get a biopsy for something that probably doesn't matter? Who knows? Anyway, I'm with you. I kind of think I'd like to know just to know, because also, you know what, too? At least if you know it's there, to pay attention to other weird symptoms you might be getting or something. And honestly, I'd still maybe want a biopsy. I don't know. Can they do like a laparoscopic biopsy or not? Or does the biopsy have to be, actually opening you up? Or can they laparoscopically go in and grab a little bit and have it not be too invasive? We're asking our doctor for MD or any of the other doctors here. I can Google online, but I'm just kind of curious. But it's not weird, Steffi. I just told you why he didn't get checked as president. It would be like checking him for breast cancer. They don't do that. They can do a needle biopsy. Oh, that's good then. Okay, that's good. I'm with you. If it's just a needle biopsy, I think I'd want the PSA and then biopsy it and see how bad it is. Your dad went in with symptoms at 64. It was the aggressive kind, took him in 2 years. That's the fear. Now, the weird thing though is, Flamingo, I'm going to guess if your dad got it at 64, he was probably getting his PSA checked every year, right? Because mine does. At my age, oh hell, I think once you're 40 or something, you get a physical every year and they check your PSA every year. So in your dad's case, it probably was just that. It was there's a couple, actually, by the way, I'm not going to say about your dad, but I was reading this morning about it too. Not only is the aggressive one like boom, but sometimes your PSA doesn't go up. The PSA is what they check in the man's blood, hormone or whatever the hell, antigen, whatever the hell it is, that sometimes can indicate something's going on with your prostate. The PSA goes up, and that's when you get suspicious. It doesn't always go up with the cancer, but it doesn't always go up. Gunther, they should be doing one anyway, depending how old you are. But that's the other problem. It just doesn't always go up. Somebody else says not had his PSA checked. He wouldn't have known he had cancer. They caught it early at 75. Yeah. Prostate stimulating antigen. I was going to say it's it's not stage 9. Very funny. Very funny. I know I had my physical today. That's why I got an exam. It was my yearly physical today. Prostate biopsy. That sounds like fun. After like 45. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Jules, for the gift. Anyway, so yes, I'm with you. I'd rather know, but I was quite surprised. Like I said, I asked my doctor and he said, no. He goes, we don't test after 70. He goes, we don't. And I was like, wow, like that. And by the way, that is the standard of care. That is what the medical society, blah, 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 tells doctors to do. Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah. Yes. Oh, my dad had the radioactive pellets 20 years ago. They've had those pellets for a while. Yeah. Anyway, I'll repeat one last time. So why not after 70? Because prostate cancer goes so slowly, usually. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, NAR. It grows so slowly. And this was what they told my dad. Something else will kill you. Generally speaking. Now, there's always exceptions. Biden's was an exception. Some of you talking about your parents, it was an exception. The fast cancer, the aggressive one. That's very rare. Typically, prostate cancer goes so slowly that you will die of something. In other words, the cancer would kill you at age 110 or something, or 115, right? Something else is going to kill you first. And the problem is, if the odds are something else is going to kill you first, do you really want surgery to remove it and remove your prostate and radiation and chemotherapy and radiation pellets and all these different things, which, by the way, will make you impotent, among other things? Do you really want all of that if most likely the cancer isn't going to hurt you? Guess what? Many people would freak out if they're told they had cancer. They'd say, oh my God, do everything, right? And then you've got a bunch of people who are getting treatments that they don't need and shouldn't get. So that's why. Anyway, there you go. So let's talk a little bit more about Ukraine. We got back onto the prostate cancer thing. We can talk about it again, as we get done, when we get done with the Ukraine stuff. Russia intercepted drone. Ukraine did another drone attack on Moscow, basically. So that's good. Poland. This was interesting. This sounds like Russia was playing terrorist games again. Poland intercepted a Russian sanctions invading ship near a critical Baltic power cable, according to Poland's prime minister. The Russian ship made suspicious maneuvers near a key undersea power cable connecting Poland and Sweden. The Russians were basically getting ready to cut another cable between European countries. After the effective intervention of the Polish military, the Russian ship sailed to one of the Russian ports. Yeah, this is what they do. These are acts of war, but they're smart because they're acts of war that are, mini acts of war, right? Do you declare war against Russia because they cut your cable, right? No. But is it an act of war? Yes. Is it obnoxious and childish? Yes. I will tell you, I don't really, I'm kind of curious what ChatGPT says. I don't quite understand what the point is here. To some degree, the Russians could be practicing for a war, right? Practice how quickly you can cut the cables and how easy it is and what's the most efficient way so that if war breaks out, you can cut all the cables. That, I guess, I get. What I don't get, thank you, David. What I don't get is, and thank you, Wayne and Lamb Chop, this seems to be also, Russia has a strategy of basically just being jerky and just doing it to be jerks. And somehow they think by constantly being jerks, somehow it'll change something. Hold on. Poland caught a Russian ship that appeared it was going to cut a cable the other day between Poland and Sweden, period. Undersea power cable, period. Why is Russia doing this, question mark? It seems they've done this before, period. What is the possible political, geostrategic reason that Russia would keep doing this kind of thing? Let's see if sometimes ChatGPT gives good answers. Let's see. Let's see what they say. Ooh, they're giving me the two answers. They do this sometimes. They give like multiple answers to try to, ooh, hello. Can you open it on the screen? There we go. It fits a broader pattern. Strategic sabotage threat. Russia is signaling that it has the capability to disrupt critical infrastructure in Europe, especially underwater cables and pipelines that are vital to energy, internet, and communications. The goal may not be to immediately sever these links, but rather to threaten disruption as leverage. Meaning, you screw with us, you go to war with us, this is the kind of thing we're going to do. Okay. Psychological hybrid warfare. These incidents fall under what analysts called gray zone operations, actions that are aggressive and hostile, but fall just short of open war. Russia is testing NATO's response thresholds, probing how far it can go without triggering retaliation. It also sows fear and uncertainty among European populations and governments about the security of their infrastructure. Many of these undersea cables, both power and data, are critical to NATO's military coordination and secure communications. Demonstrating the ability to target these lines is a form of strategic deterrence. It signals that in the event of escalation, Russia can strike at the soft underbelly of NATO countries. Retaliation, sure. Economic blackmail, same thing we talked about before. Okay. I'm still not convinced they're great answers. Honestly, the Russians have a history of liking to do stuff because it's dicky. And somehow they think, ha, ha, ha. You know what I mean? We showed you cutting your underwater cable because it made you mad. It's trolling, actually. It's internet trolling, right? where they show up just to throw a bomb and be mean and be rude, just to kind of shake things up and be rude and go, I'm here, right? It's very weird. I mean, it really is very weird behavior. And they are acts of war, but they're mini acts of war, like I said, you know? Oh, boy. Boy, oh, boy, oh, boy. That's it for the news. Wait a minute. Is that? Yeah, that's good enough. That's good enough. Yeah, that's good enough. Emotionally immature. Yep, basically. I did actually, yes. Abdul Hamid mentioned there was a story about a former Ukrainian member of parliament who was in cahoots with the former Ukrainian president who got kicked out and fled to Russia. And this guy was in cahoots with him, and he just got, it looks like, assassinated in Spain. So it looks like Ukrainian secret services tracked this guy down in Spain and got him. That's why I'm saying the Ukrainians have got an Israeli side to them, and I mean that in a good way. In terms of how Israeli spy services, the Mossad, you don't want to screw with the Mossad, and they get even. And the Ukrainians clearly get even. Very interesting. All right, that's it for the news. We can hang out and talk now, and maybe we'll do Discord. Let's see, depending how much we talk here. 2017 revised its recommendations for prostate tests, allowing for individual decision-making for men aged 55 to 69. Men are to discuss the risks and benefits. Oh, what? So that sounds like they're even lowering like the oomph for people getting checked for prostate cancer. That's interesting. Huh? Yeah, I think I'd still want to know, because I wouldn't mind having it tested, just make sure it's not the aggressive one, you know? My uncle died from the aggressive one. I didn't know if it was the aggressive one. They told him, basically, I guess I don't know all the details, but basically suggested a less aggressive actions, and it killed him in a few years, which I didn't realize until recently, because I didn't realize that's what did it, Anyway, Poland does have the right to sink that ship if they tried anything. I agree. But they hadn't tried it yet. Basically, honestly, I think they should have watched. And the second that ship did anything, sink it. That would have been a much better message, I think, to the Russians. But you did miss the discussion of the South African president. Basically, the South African president went to the Oval Office today, and Trump decided to gaslight him and literally lectured him about a conspiracy theory that there's a genocide against white people in South Africa. It's horrible. It's everywhere. It doesn't exist, actually. And the South African president tried to explain to Trump, it's not real. It's a conspiracy theory. And Trump said, no, I've got proof. And he turned down the lights and showed videos and did all sorts of crap. This is the same Trump who, remember, said that it was true that the guy he deported was a member of a gang because he had the gang name written on his hand, except it was actually a photoshopped image that somebody had photoshopped the numbers, and you could tell they photoshopped the numbers. Very funny. Hi, you okay? What's up? I heard that whine. Everything okay? You guys can see her over there. For you guys, she's there on the couch. She's still there, right there on the couch looking at me. She was under the pillow, and then I heard like, I'm not sure what exactly she wants. She's going to want water soon. But something got her goat. TikTok ban. There's no update on the TikTok ban. He had sort of, Trump had continued there's literally no update on the TikTok ban. Yeah. Weather is kind of cool here. Oddly, it's 55 today, which is bizarre for the end of May in DC. It ought to be like 80. I hear you. Hi. You're okay. It's okay. Relax. I don't know what you want. I don't speak dog. I don't know what she wants. She's literally sitting here just looking at me. Well, now she's looking out the window. Yeah, see, she's right there by my thumb. You guys can see her over there. But she's sitting here. She's making. Now, she was not happy that it was raining earlier. So we have had rain on and off. It's still looking wet outside. So there is that. That may be why she's whining. I hear you. Relax, please. I know. Relax. I don't know how many more days. How many days? Let's just see if ChatGPT knows how many days we're into this. How many days are we into Trump's extension of the delay of the TikTok ban? Quiet. Let's see. As of May 21st, we are 47 days into Trump's second 75-day extension. So there's another, what would that be? 28 days, another month left of the extension. Yeah, expires on June 18th. So this, will you stop? Quiet. Jesus. This extension, she's been whining all day too, which has been driving me a little crazy. But this extension continues till June 18th, it says so. But there's been no news. No news. Oh yeah, we know exactly what happened, Jeff. Jeff says, any theory on the Ukrainians setting fire to the UK Prime Minister's old house? Yeah, the Russians did it. It's just a coincidence that, like the day before, the Poles arrested a bunch of Ukrainians hired by the Russians to blow up packages on airplanes. This is what Russia does. They hire, they hire other people to do their dirty work, but they like to hire right-wing Ukrainians, basically, Ukrainians of Russian heritage that are like pro-Russian. Yeah, the Russians hired them. I mean, that would be the most obvious explanation. And quite literally, it was the Germans, not the Poles? Okay. Germans. I thought it was the Poles that hired I'm talking about a different attack. You know that. There was an attack from Germany. This is a different one. There was a new attack the Russians were planning on DHL packages, like DHL type packages. The earlier plane attack was from Germany. This was a new one that they were doing, like from Poland into Ukraine or something. But there was an arrest the other day. Maybe it was the Germans who did the arrest, but there was an arrest the other day, and they arrested like 3 Ukrainians. Stop, please. They arrested 3 Ukrainians and clearly hired by the Russians. And they said it. They said literally hired by the Russians. It was Russian intelligence who did it. So yeah. Yep. Yeah, this is a new. Oh yeah, that's what I was saying. This is a new one. I know. I read the story and I went, wait a minute, is this the same one? This was a new one. The old one was a couple of years ago when the Russians basically were practicing setting off bombs, in essence, incendiary devices on planes delivering DHL packages. And one of the planes was like Germany to somewhere. I'm trying to think. One of the planes I think was going to the UK and one was going to Germany. Maybe Lithuania or something. There were two different planes, and they were practicing for the Russians to basically blow the bombs off on planes going to America and Canada, which could have been commercial flights with passengers, because a lot of commercial flights with passengers have packages on them. But this was a second practice run the Russians were doing, and they were doing this one to go after for planes flying into Ukraine. And 3 Ukrainians got arrested, but they said already it was Russian intelligence that was doing it. Yep. Oh, hey, Code. Thank you. Appreciate it. So yeah, no, when I read the story too, I went, wait, they just arrested somebody for the old attack? Oh no, the Russians tried it again. Anyway, Trump a big baby, Russia obnoxious. Oh, you're saying summary? Are you saying news summary, John, by saying that, or what? Yeah, Donbass Ukrainian insurrectionists, probably. Yeah. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Becky, for the gifts. Thank you, Code. Anyway, what else, guys? What else? Like I said, this is the part of the show we sort of hang out and talk about whatever news you want. I've already gone through sort of my summary of the stories that I found interesting today. We could go to Discord. If we go to Discord, we're going to go soon because I don't want to go late. But if we go, I would try to go soon. Sometimes we haven't done it in a while, but I've got a Discord community. We go and we hang out there for a while. It's a different setup. Like there's no camera, but I just do audio, but it's kind of a nice hangout. Do you think Russia will ever be free again? I don't know. I mean, you kind of hope Russia and China will be free someday, but the people have got to rise up and do something, and in Russia, you've got several hundred years. I mean, occasionally, 1917, they rose up and then they installed like a brutal communist dictatorship that tried to take over the world. That didn't work too well. 2011, I guess they tried again with sort of a more pro-democracy bent, and Putin crushed it. I mean, hey, enough. I don't know what you want from me. God. So I don't know if you can hear it. It's literally nonstop whining in my ear. And it's like, She's been doing this all day. It's very annoying. She's getting her haircut tomorrow, which will maybe help. I don't know. It's very cute. Anyway, oh, did he? Hegseth led a Christian prayer service at the Pentagon this morning. I mean, like, I don't care if you want, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't care to some degree, but to some degree too, like, what if you've got top staff who aren't Christians or they're not religious? Are you cutting them? Like, are they being forced to attend, or they're going to look bad or something? Or it's a little weird. Because you know what it is too, actually, here's the part of the problem. Part of the problem, and frankly, this is my problem with pronouns, by the way. You're kind of forcing staff to come out and say how religious they are, right? I mean, the staff that are super religious, evangelical, they're happy to show up and go to the prayer service at work. If you're kind of general, middle of the road religious, you don't usually go to church services at work, right? I was brought up Christian. You don't go to church at work. That's not something most Christians would do. It puts you in a really weird bind because, first of all, you're now having to kind of admit what your religion is. You're having to admit how serious you are about the religion, right? Like, are you a really good Christian that goes to church even at work? Or are you less good of a Christian who doesn't go to church at work? It puts you in a weird spot. It really does. It risks discrimination against the staff that either aren't Christian or are of a Christian faith that isn't as evangelical, that doesn't go to church services at work. And again, this is my problem with the pronoun thing that I've talked about. Not people want to use pronouns, whatever, right? But I'm talking people who, and I've seen a lot of people, they put it in their email and they put it into their work email. I've been at meetings where people went around the room and gave their pronouns. Here's the problem with that. And I want to write about this at some point. When you and I was in a work setting, when you go around the room and everybody says their pronouns, you're telling people if you're transgender or not. It's none of your business if I'm transgender or not, right? Imagine going around the room and telling people if you're gay or if you have cancer, I don't know, something personal about yourself. It's none of your business. If I'm in a setting, and it's worse than that. I was in a group once and I said, I think I'd rather pass because it creeped me out. But I'm like, you're demanding I tell you if I'm transgender. What if I am? For example, like you're a guy whose pronouns are he or she, right? So I don't quite understand all of this, but let's just assume that makes you trans. You're actually trans. You identify as a woman. Okay. I say you're a guy, but you identify, right? But you get it. You get what I'm talking about. Me, but I identify as a woman. I'd say I'm a she. Okay. You're making me say that publicly when you go around the room. Either I have to now tell you that I'm trans, or it doesn't even matter. It could be non-binary, it doesn't matter. You're forcing people to tell you they're trans or non-binary. Why are you forcing them to do that? Being gay, let me tell you, sometimes you don't want to tell people what you are. Sometimes it's none of their business. Sometimes, especially in a work setting, you really don't want to tell people because it's none of their business and you don't want it to affect you. So we went around the room and each person had to say whether they were non-binary or trans or whatever it was. And I'm thinking, okay, what if you're trans or non-binary, but you don't want people to know? Do you not say your pronoun at all? Do you say, I'm not going to say? Well, if you don't say, do people think you're a bigot? Because why won't you say? You think it's stupid, right? Why wouldn't you say? Do you lie? Like, let's say you're me, but you identify as a woman, but you don't want people to know because it's none of their business. I had a friend years ago who told me he thought he was trans. He said he felt like he was a woman, but he never told anybody because he wasn't comfortable and he just wasn't comfortable with it. Should he lie in a work setting when it comes to him and not say she? You're going to force him to lie and say he's a he, right? Imagine doing that to people in a workplace. You cannot it is illegal. It is literally illegal. And as a lawyer, I would have a field day with this. It is illegal under US law in a regular workplace to make employees say what their status is, whether it's gender identity, whether it's, gender, whatever it is. It would be illegal to make them do that. And especially to put them in a situation where they felt obliged to either lie or hide it or be forced to tell. Because here's the thing too, when you're in a workplace, some of these liberal workplaces where everyone puts it in their email, what does it say when you don't put it in your email? Think about this seriously. You know what the answer is to that. If you're the person in the office that isn't putting in your email what your pronouns are, the impression is going to be that it's because you're kind of a jerk, right? That you're one of those people, right? I mean, so already you're putting yourself in a situation, they're putting you in a situation that's making you look bad and making people discriminate against you again, or you're forced to lie. You put your pronouns and you lie because you don't want to come out, or you're forced to come out. I'm telling you, this is a massive lawsuit. I am a lawyer. It is a massive lawsuit. That is my problem with the pronoun. I mean, I have other problems with the pronoun thing. But that's the problem I've got with the let's announce our pronouns. Again, you want to announce yours, knock yourself out. But literally went around the room and all of us had to say. And I just wasn't in the mood to lecture everybody about this. I said, I'd rather pass because I was like, this is weird. But yeah, no, it is putting people in a very weird position. I mean this, and I'm a lawyer on this, and I've been doing civil rights stuff for 30 plus years. You're putting people in a very weird position. Again, the simplest explanation is, I don't care. Say it's that they're non-binary and not trans. I don't care. By the way, trans works too. Your pronoun also applies if you're trans. But let's say it's non-binary. I don't care. You're requiring people to say whether they're non-binary or not. You're going to really require people to say that? I guarantee you some people are non-binary or whatever who don't want to say it publicly. I guarantee you that. And you're making them say it publicly. That is so inappropriate. So inappropriate. Okay, you're New York State government employees. Exactly, because the more liberal workplaces think this is some liberal thing to do. And they're not thinking you're literally taking employees and making them come out. And if they don't come out, they look like they're anti, right? I mean, I think it's a very inappropriate. It's really inappropriate. Bottom line, if somebody, and I mean, the whole pronoun thing, to be honest, I'm not quite there yet personally, but let's pretend we're all cool with the pronoun thing. If you want to use different pronouns, let it be known in the office and you're fine. It's not like it's going to be a big secret, right? You don't make everybody go around in the room. It's weird. The other thing too is how often do you refer to people as he and she or it or whatever the hell it is? You don't. In a meeting at work, you refer to Bob. You don't say, well, I like what she said. It's actually kind of rude if you say it that way, right? You don't refer to a coworker as she and he and him in the same room with them. You don't. There'd be no reason to inform you of each other. You know what I mean? Think about it. If we were sitting around a work table and somebody came up and said, I like what he said, you'd say, I like what Bob said. When you say he, it's because you forgot his name. And even then, it sounds kind of weird. I like what he said. Your response would be, I'm right here, right? It almost doesn't even make sense anyway. All right. As you can see, I've given a lot of thought to this, but I think there's a legal issue that's a little scary. Mr., Mrs., or Ms. Yeah, I mean, well, I never use Mr. Never use Mr., really. Ms. and, I mean, honestly, don't really use most of them much. I can't even think of that. If I'm talking to a senior adult, maybe you do, but, oh, don't even, Dan Savage was telling me once, Dan's a friend of mine, but sort of sex expert. And Dan was at a thing at University of Chicago, and somebody was in the audience who told him, and they were yelling at Dan. They didn't like him. And were telling him they wanted Dan to refer to them as it. And Dan was like, I am not calling you it. He goes, if I called him it or them it, whatever, he goes, imagine what would have happened to me if I called this person it. And I'm with him on that. Like, it? Ooh, that would freak. I mean, I would be like, I'm not calling somebody it. That, again, because at least the way I'm brought up, that sounds way too dehumanizing. The gender thing is very weird. It's very weird. So I'm sure they do, but I'm not a big look. I am not, let's not talk about this topic anymore. Let's talk more generally. I'm not a big fan of feelings, and you feel this way, or you feel you're right, or you prefer something. That's nice. That doesn't really make it real. It doesn't make it something we should be doing nationwide because you feel. People use it to justify politics all the time. Right? I mean, think about this like on civil rights stuff and everything else. My personal experience, but I feel. What's the term they use? They use some term of my lived experience. And the lived experience thing was often used as a way of shutting people down who disagreed or proved you wrong. No, but that's my lived experience. And you were like, okay, I realize that's your lived experience. That doesn't make you right. It doesn't mean we should be passing this legislation, but it also doesn't make you right. You feel this way. That's okay. But that's, or my truth. Exactly. Blue Ariel. That's my truth. Your truth is not true. Your truth might be true, but your truth is a cute Orwellian way of saying, actually, what my truth is? My truth is your opinion. Actually, that Jewelry just said it. I have a right to my opinion. Yes, you have a right to your opinion, and that's your opinion, but it's not your truth. It's not that we all, I told you guys this. I was at I don't want to go through the long discussion, but I was on a blog panel once, and they wanted to talk about, years ago, I was one of the big bloggers in the US, political bloggers, and they wanted to have a panel about, I think it was like discrimination against women in blogging. And I was like, I'm game. Yeah, that sounds like an important topic at a big blog conference, and I'm one of the top political blogs. And we were discussing a couple of weeks before in a phone call, the panelists with the moderator, about how we were going to do this. And they wanted to talk. It's a story worth telling again. The other panelists wanted to talk about what can be done about discrimination against women in blogging. And I said, okay, but I'm not really sure what that is. I think we need to at least start by defining the problem. No, we've had too many panel discussions where we've discussed the problem and it never gets fixed. We need to discuss solutions. And I said, okay, but I'm one of the top bloggers in the US. I have no idea what you're talking about. All I know about, even now today, I would say, all I knew about was women tend to get harassed much more than men online. I said, that I know. But other than that, I don't know what you're talking about when you say discrimination against women in blogging. Are you saying they can't get hired or something? Or people like, I don't know what you're talking about, right? And then I was told it's offensive to ask a woman to explain what discrimination against women in blogging looks like. And I'm like, what? And they said, no, you can't ask her to explain it. It's making her relive the trauma. And I said, guys, we're having a panel about discrimination against women in blogging. We have to explain the problem. And they said, John, listen to this way. It's just like a workplace. And I'm listening to, this is when I quit, by the way. After this explanation, I said, I'm off this panel. They said, it's just like a workplace. This is a big liberal, but bunch of typical liberals. I mean, I say this like big blogging liberals back 10 years ago, maybe 15, maybe 15, 18 years ago now. And they said, it's just like in a workplace. If a woman says she's being discriminated against by a man, you don't ask her to explain it. That would be forcing her to relive it. And not only this, by asking her to explain and prove that she's being discriminated or harassed. Actually, they said harassed, I think was the example. That if you're asking her to prove she's being harassed by a man, you're not only making her relive the experience, you're casting doubt on her, saying you don't believe her. And I said, excuse me, I'm a lawyer. You better believe in any company in America, if you allege harassment, man or woman, you better be able to prove it, because I'm going to sue your ass off. If you allege it to me and they take action against me, I'm suing all of you if you literally had no proof and you never even asked the person who alleged the harassment what happened. And I was literally told it would be offensive to ask them because, again, you believe women. And I went, I am so off this panel. It's not as if you people are crazy. I'm off this panel. I'm off this freaking panel. It was, I forgot what we were talking about. Because it's talking about all these other issues on the left we talk about. This was the my lived proof thing, or my truth. And this notion, and frankly, we got into this with the believe women thing, which I was very outspoken about, because I said, no, believe what I said. I said, believe women are being sincere and investigate. That's what you should do. You don't believe women. Just because a woman alleges something doesn't mean it's true. It means she believes it's true. You should believe she believes it's true, and you should investigate whether it is true. You shouldn't just ignore it because she's a woman or whatever it is. But I said, but the notion, so it should be believe them in the sense, not going, oh, don't believe her. There you, thank you. Don't discount women, Tiptoe just said. Perfect. Yeah. Don't discount women. Don't ignore women when they make a complaint. Investigate it like you would if it was a man making a complaint. But it was sort of interpreted as this believe women, as in, if they're saying it, literally these guys told me, if they say it, it's true. And if you ask them to prove it, it's offensive. And I was like, you're out of your minds. I mean, that was absolutely insane. So yes, I don't know how the panel went. I was not on that panel, but also not like explaining what the problem even was. I was like, you're alleging discrimination against women. Explain, give some examples to people so they go, oh my God, that's terrible. Right. Because everybody knows. I said, I don't know. I'm one of the top bloggers in America. I was in America, and I don't know. If I don't know, other people don't know. Right. What the problem? I always use that example with people too. I've told you guys this before. Like, if I don't know something, I'm pretty confident there's other people who don't know it either, which is why I have no problem asking questions. I have no problem saying, excuse me, I don't know what that is. You guys have made fun of me sometimes. I didn't know who some of the, actually, Taylor Swift, I think I may have asked. I think I knew she was a singer. I think that's all I knew. But things like that I just don't know, and if you don't know, other people don't know. Granted, Taylor Swift, a lot of you know, but I mean, I've heard of her. I didn't know her. And actually, one of you pulled up a bunch of her songs for me, which is very interesting. But yeah, you should never. And actually, this is also my theory of advocacy, my theory of marketing, of public relations. You shouldn't assume people know what you're talking about. You shouldn't assume they understand what you're talking about. You shouldn't assume that they agree with you, right? So you should always try to explain, and you should try to explain in a way that maybe they don't know what you're talking about. So don't just jump in and go, well, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, I mean, I try to do that, guys. I try to do this with you guys when I mention names of politicians. Lindsey Graham, I mentioned, and I told you guys, he's this Republican politician, very conservative, but kind of caves to Trump a lot. You need to assume people don't necessarily know everything you know. Because if you do assume it, they may not say it, but you would have heard me talk about Lindsey Graham, and your eyes would have gone, I don't know who this is. I'll just space out of this discussion John's having right now. Anyway, I know Trump. Yeah. So Trump. Yeah. Well, that is true. Trump went after Springsteen again. He posted a video somebody made of Trump swinging a golf ball, and it hit Springsteen in the head or on the back and knocked him on the floor, because Trump thinks it's funny to use violence. And he's done this before. Really weird. Really weird. Hey, Patrick, you're still following me. All right. Well, that's good or bad for you. I don't know. But anyway, trust but verify. Yeah. That's also the position we have vis-a-vis the Russians, or Reagan did, but not a bad idea. Oh man. Anyway, what else, guys? Well, now we're going late. Now we're not going to go to Discord because it's already 20 after, but we'll maybe try tomorrow. Is the parade still on for the 14th? I don't know. I think so. You mean Trump's little wargasm? We called Bush's one the wargasm that he did after the first Gulf War. Although I was a fan of the first Gulf War, so whatever, but we didn't like him spending all the money. Hold on here. Let me put my fan on because it's weird because it's cold out, but it actually feels a little warm in here. Well, it's 73 though. That's not really too warm. Maybe I can pop the door. Since I now have my screen on the door, I can open the dog. David Hogg, what's going on with him? Oh, I haven't been paying any more attention. I don't know more what's been going on with David. I mean, I know what's going on with David, but I haven't been paying attention to it. So, I mean, I like him. I've always liked him. I like his activist bent. He may have gone too far, but maybe, I don't know. But I like the activism side. I like the youthful energy. I like people that come into organizations and try to shake things up in general, but that's very hard to do. You know, there's an immunity clause in the new bill. I'm not familiar with that. ATL or Atlanta. Peach aviator. I'm looking at that going, that's not a peach. That's a symbol for something else online. But I'm going to guess it's peach since you're Atlanta. That made me laugh. I'm looking going, I've learned that I've got to be careful saying people's names because some of you have names that are a little risque. And I've learned I've got to be like, oh, okay. I'll say part of the name. But having said that, we talked about it. I think, David Hogue was also getting into some trouble because he was talking about, you're funny. You did. Oh, the peach is a symbol for your butt online. Yes. A peach is a symbol for a behind. Yes. So I saw it and I went, ATL's got to be Atlanta. Okay. It's peach. But yeah, I mean, David was talking about going after Democrats. As a high up person at the Democratic National Committee, you can't really do that. You can't really openly say we're going to kick Democrats out of office. It's bad. It's bad. Yeah, it is. I mean, you can't do it. It's the wrong job to be doing it in. He should be forming a group on the outside if he wants. That's okay. But inside the Democratic Party, that's not going to fly. But he would have to form a group on the outside. And then go for it. Exactly. So a peach is just a peach. What else? Like I said, we go a couple more minutes since it's already 20 some after. Kellen reminded you about YouTube. Oh, I know YouTube's here. Although YouTube has more than Discord. Discord's a smaller group. YouTube's not terrible. I mean, not terrible, meaning it's not a totally small. I like this, by the way, when it's dark out because the colors in the room are much better. I don't know if you guys, even you guys can see, because I've got the red lights now. So when it's dark out, the room actually gets a lot better coloring too. Like on YouTube, it's really nice coloring on YouTube and Discord. Unfortunately, because of the angle, I've got to put this on here. You get a little bit, but not much. But on Discord, it's really cool coloring. Those are the red lights that I use now when I watch TV at night. It's nice. I turn the other lights down, but the blue and the red are on, and it makes kind of a nice warm glow that makes me happy. That's what I mean. It's on TikTok. You don't see the whole room unless I turn the room, but there's a blue, because it's nice. I have a shelf. What you guys on TikTok can see, I have a shelf up above. And years ago, I finally figured out using those LED strips from Philips Hue. The LED strips work perfectly up there because they're kind of couched about a foot back, and they don't always look great, but when they're a foot back and the ceiling is a foot above, you get this beautiful effect. Yeah. So it's very nice. You guys can see a little, I can turn a little bit. There you go. You can see the ledge there up above, how it gives, even on here, the effect is pretty cool. Anyway, yes, I like my lights. It took a while to figure them out, but I finally figured, even like the red one, the red one was just a few months ago because I wanted more lighting for you guys. And I was like, I want more light back there. And I tried the red, and I mean, it's looking a little orange in this one, but it ended up, it's very pretty. And like I said, at night watching TV, it's great. It gives just a warm glow. It's almost not as bright as this. It's a warmer glow at night. Golden Dome. Yeah, I know Trump's crazy Golden Dome thing. YouTube is much more chill. We do get some trolls. They're rare. We got one the other day. I think I got rid of him. We get them occasionally. Yeah, see, and then the trolls are funny because the trolls come and then they leave. So like now the trolls left and it's just us on TikTok. Very funny, very weird. Anyway, I'm gonna yawn at you now. Oh, do we have? I know we did. Well, I could see the numbers were a little higher today, which meant we got more trolls. I don't know what it is though that gets. Maybe it's days that Trump screws up, because he did. He screwed up with the South African president. Maybe that did it. I don't know. Well, I remember your name, Shane, so I doubt anybody else is going to think you're a troll. Also, usually, I mean, there are sometimes people who are not trolls. Oh, my friend didn't show up. Okay, keep an eye. Sometimes people are not trolls, and we block them or mute them, thinking they're trolls because it's. I still remember whoever it was, one of our first shows, who was talking about. One of you may still be here. They were talking about Putin, and they said something like, "He's a liar." And one of them, and I saw it too. And one of the mods thought they were talking about me, and I thought they were talking about me, and they got muted or blocked. And they wrote me. They're like, "No, no, 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 no! I was talking about Putin, not you." And I was like, "Oh God, sorry." But it was very funny because it was like you know, it happens. Sometimes you see stuff and you don't know. That's why often like that woman yesterday was being kind of rude. She called me a narcissist, and I asked her, and I was like, "Okay, did you mean to write what are you talking to somebody else, or what are you doing?" Like, just because I'm thinking there's no way yeah, you lied, but don't do it, Luis. See, Luis, I know because Luis does this, so I know you're not a troll. But yeah, like you don't always know, especially when there's a lot of trolls at once. Like Luis, you'd be toast if you said that there were a lot of people, because literally be like, "Oh, there's another one," you know. Yeah, you never want to pretend to be a troll, or you might have to write out. You might have to write to me privately and say, "Please let me back." Well, the emoticons help, but actually that doesn't really help. Guess what the trolls do? They use smileys a lot. Believe it or not, that's another thing the troll accounts do. They very often will laugh at you and use laughing. It's one of the best ways of telling who they are. So that does not help you. The emoticon. Yep. Very often you will notice it in the comments on TikTok again, especially you'll see the really obnoxious trolls in the comments, and they'll call you names and stuff and then put smiley, laughing, crying faces all the time. It's they all do it. So it's clearly a thing they do. The trolls stole millennial lingo. Oh, that's funny. Oh, hey, Jetty. Jetty. It's Jedi. I'm looking going Jetty. I wasn't hitting me. It was Jedi mind tricks. Watching since you were 21. How old are you now? Just curious. Although if you're watching me on here, you're not that much older because I've only been doing this for probably 4 years. But you could have been seeing me elsewhere because I've been doing political stuff, online for 20 years. My blog. Some people still are around who have seen me on the blogs. Oh, you've been watching since 2021. Okay. Oh, well, 2021, I'm trying to think. Actually, 2020, actually, beginning of 2023, March is when when was the Russian invasion? February 24th, 2022. Oh, it was 2022. So I started doing the show March of 2022, but I was doing videos a good year before that, or a year or two before that. Yeah. Yeah. I started doing videos on TikTok a year or two before. So anyways, good to see you. Thanks for hanging out. Turtles. I know we need another name for the trolls. Oh, hey, Atlanta. Yep. I didn't recognize your name though, because I would have remembered the Atlanta peach thing. That would have stuck in my head. Yeah, I would say COVID is when I really started. I started doing a lot of TikTok during COVID, really. That was sort of my initial thing that got me going because I was annoyed with all the lies out there. So I was doing a lot of, which you can imagine the fun. Boy, I should have done videos then. That would have been fun. Doing lives about COVID. Woo! Thank you, Lizette. But can you imagine have we done videos about COVID? Live videos. Woo! Would have been fun. That would have been a fun. Probably it would have worked. I knew a lot about COVID at the time. I was Aaron before Aaron. I don't know. Was Aaron not doing it back in 20? Well, again, I started going live March of 22, but I was TikToking a good year before. I don't know if it was 2 years before. I'd have to look back and see. I want to say 2021 were my first TikToks. Yeah. Okay. Now she wants water. One quick second. All right, you. Yeah, she get a little water. Whiny. Oh, let me get you water. Whiny girl. All right. There you go. Oh, you want a treat too, huh? All right. You've had a bad day. I'll give you a treat. All right. There you go. All right. That's cute. She whined, but she didn't want water. She wanted a treat. She's had a bad day with the rain, so I did give her a treat. Oh, stuck after your dog, sir. Oh, that's funny, Blue. Or not funny, but you know what I mean. Oh, thank you, Milko. Actually, it is always kind of fun to see where people are coming from and what their stories and everything. How old is the dog? She's 15. I assume you meant her and not me. She's like 15, almost not. Well, she's not a half yet, but she's 15 and something. You're allowed to talk, Shane. That's all right. If anything, people could be chattier on YouTube. It's not a bad thing. Where do I stand politically? I mean, I try not to get into that too much because whatever on the show, but I was a Republican years ago. I worked for a Republican senator. Number of reasons I thought Republicans went too far. The irony is that was 30 years ago. Imagine today. I am clearly no fan of Donald Trump. I mean, that's putting it nicely. TikTok is weird, so I sort of have to watch what I say about Trump, I feel, because I think TikTok's weird, but I think he's a danger. Not I think. He is a danger to our country and the world. And the Republican Party has gone a little crazy and needs to find itself again, or our country's in real trouble. That doesn't necessarily make you a Democrat, because some Republicans think that too. But I agree with the Democrats on a lot. Some stuff the Democrats drive me a little crazy because I'm not very far to the left on most things. But I'm not very far to the right. On the military stuff, I tend to be right-wing-ish, meaning I'm more conservative on military stuff. I'm all for intervention. War, if it's necessary, is fine with me, if it's necessary. I'm much more conservative on military than Republicans are today, because the Republicans are kind of the far left on the military stuff today. They don't really like the military. They really don't. They pretend they do, but they really don't. They certainly don't like using the military. They don't like defending our allies. They don't like fighting our enemies. They don't like stopping our enemies. So it's a whole weird, I mean, I wouldn't even know what to call Republicans. Republicans today aren't even Republicans. I don't know what they are. But I'm not sure what you would even call them at this point, Anyway, all right. It's been going an hour and a half and my voice is still rattling. I do have to be careful with the voice, just because this weekend is what did it, clearly, because it starts off okay, and by the end of the show, it's rattly again, and I've got to be careful with this. Oh God, the term left and right in U.S. politics, I'm not even sure how to get into it, but I would say this. Donald Trump should make it easier. Donald Trump is now the right. That should make it obvious, because nobody and no Democrat agrees with anything Donald Trump is doing. I think, Europeans sometimes say, oh, there's no difference between Democrats and Republicans. It should be obvious the difference right now, right? Maybe it's not as obvious although Democrats tend to be social programs, poor people, minorities, meaning, things looking after their issues very much, labor, unions, things like that. Republicans used to be, I don't know what, hey Code, Left Coast Canadian. Republicans used to be strong on defense, tax cuts, limited government, meaning smaller government, but also government didn't intervene in your lives. Now, religion, they believed in faith. Now, under Trump, faith, come on. Limited government that doesn't intervene in your life, Trump, please, right? Tax cuts, yeah. But strong defense, not really. Standing up to enemies around the world, no way. That's not Trump. Standing up for our allies, no way. Standing up for democracy, spreading democracy, no way. So now I don't know what you would call Republicans. I'm not even sure what you would call them. Again, TikTok always worries me with this, because I've got to be careful what I say, so TikTok doesn't get upset. But they're a bit of a authoritarian movement, populist authoritarian movement that reminds you, at least echoes of the 1930s in Europe, unfortunately. So it's not good, but it's sort of angry populism. It's angry know-nothing populism, because it's not really based in reality either, which is not good. Thank you, Code, for the gift. All right, I'm going to go, guys. All right, like I said, hour and a half. I don't want to ruin my voice. So have a good evening. Thank you all for joining us. As always, Discord, I'm going to start with y'all. So let's finish the Discord, and then I'll sign off YouTube and then TikTok. All right. Oh, there are still a couple of Jeffrey and Street Rat and Amanda. All right. Bye to whatever you are, Discord, whatever you are. YouTube. Good to see you, YouTubers. See everybody tomorrow, 6 o'clock Eastern. And finally, TikTok.